Good morning. Oh, good afternoon, Martine. How are you?
Well, good afternoon.
I'm so delighted that you're joining us today. It's the third session already in our
Yes.
Eldership series. So lucky number 3. And it'll be great to hear your story. So far, we've had a fascinating kind of, I guess, a demonstration of eldership more than a talk about eldership from Jarrap and Jimpa and First Nations in the First Nations space. And then we've had that beautiful talk yesterday with Nancy Parker about shell essences. And today we move on to you. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We will just get started before, as we always do, with a little bit of an acknowledgement of country. So for those that are joining us now or whenever you listen in to this recording, I invite you to close your eyes and just feel your presence on this land, under these skies, whatever they're doing today, blowing still, blue, grey, always magical. And in these waterways that run like the blood system of this land, and thinking out to our oceans surrounding this beautiful, beautiful nation, and giving deep thanks to those that have walked before us and held all these things in custodianship, who have known how to sing up this country, to look after this country, and really deliver it as it is today, so beautiful and so well kept. And my hope is that by thinking into eldership and our role as humans on this planet and healthy ways of being, that we might contribute further to that custodianship. So welcome to you, Martine.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a wonderful club.
Yeah, it is a wonderful club, and we've just been joined by Melanie as well. Hi, hi, Melanie. Nice to have you here.
Hi.
Hi. Melanie, I'd love to introduce you to Martine, who's talking today, and Pauline and Merv, who will be talking on other days of this eldership. So welcome. It's nice to have somebody who's not talking in the future. So Martine, you've been a part of what we're doing through SoulAdvisor for some time, and in fact you've been a part of the whole scene of health and wellness in this country for a good while, and I'd love to understand a little bit more about how you came to be there and where it all started for you.
Well, I was just thinking, my mind also always been Chinese. I don't know, I was born in France, but my brain is Chinese. When I was 10, I was reading, Taoist and Yin and Yang, and it was just totally natural to me. So when I came across Chinese Oriental medicine, it was pretty obvious, like, yep, this is, my path. This is how I think. So I started from Oriental medicine and then, doing shiatsu, doing Western herbs and Chinese herbs and then the mind body kind of NLP therapy and Bowen and imagery. So I started gathering all kind of tools to help me understand energetic and how the mind body connects and how people get sick and why they get sick and all this kind of things. It's been a wonderful journey, and I learned so much from the people I work with.
I feel like that you just fling those things out there as if it was nothing to suddenly to Western herbalism, naturopathy, shiatsu.
Whatever it was, I was just thirsty to understand how things work and how to help people. So.
And you just mentioned, that you were lucky enough to be privileged enough to have that information coming from all those sources in your quest. So that's a lot of information, and it's involves a lot of different lineages. And I'd love to hear a little bit about who really inspired you along the journey, which teachers or philosophers or...
So many teachers. My first mentor was 92. And I was at university in France. I was in my early 20s, and it was extraordinary. He was the last secretary of Tolstoy in Russia, and he was an extraordinary man. So, I was blessed to have 4 years with him, learning and getting inspired by this extraordinary man who looked 65. He was 92, and then I had I worked with Naturecare, and I started training at the college, and I'm still looking for a mentor and a teacher. And would you believe I was with Dr. Gross in the same building of Naturecare for 10 years before I met him. And obviously I was not ready. And I was blessed to study with him for about 13 years. And he was a master of linking science, philosophy, spirituality, everything together in an amazing way. So it was, again, I was very blessed to have such an inspirational mentor. And then, again, I met so many people in China. There was people in the 80s, 90s who had 40 plus experience, and I'm sitting with them and thinking, oh my God, when am I going to have that experience, that level of experience? And then eventually I got there, right? So it's like, it feels amazing having that background and that, experience. Because the French say, experience, wisdom comes from experience, and experience comes from your mistakes. So it's like, stay as long as you learn from them, right?
Yes. It's not an easy quest, is it? I always liken the gaining of experience to taking a really tough bushwalk, because, some bits are incredibly awe-inspiring. The view comes out from between the trees and we're like, oh, look how easy it looks ahead of me. I'll just walk down the hill and through the bush. And, but of course, then there's rivers to come across and things that bite you, et cetera, et cetera. You've just mentioned 3 continents then. So you mentioned learning with a brilliant Russian man in France. Was that in Russian or was that in French?
Well, I was studying Russian, so it was, we're practicing with him, but it was about, his life and his philosophy, and it was an incredible man. So, yeah.
Did he start you off on a journey of your own healing, or thinking about healing in a wider context?
Not specifically healing, but more like to watch a man of this age being so vital and so happy and so healthy, right? That was inspirational to me. Like, how did he manage to get that all and so well, right? So he was teaching me, how he never worried, he never, like he was always at peace within, and he was always laughing and always attracting young people to him. Like nobody over 30 will come next to him, right? So it's like learning by symbiosis. It's like just being with him, osmosis, and just like feeling the vitality of that man was amazing.
I guess that is the mark of a really embodied elder, isn't it?
Yes, totally. Yeah. But then it's a young elder. It's a spiritually young elder. So the key is to go into maturity, but keeping that usefulness and that, openness, that curiosity, that laughter, that keeps you young in spirit. Like, and you had that amazing combination.
Maybe you'd like to add something about laughter, Merv, there, and laughter keeping you young.
Yes.
I'm happy to jump in as soon as someone mentions laughter. And it just, people who laugh all the time, one of the people that comes to mind is the Dalai Lama. I'm not sure if you've heard him or seen him recently. He just laughs all the time, to the point where what are you doing? What are you doing? And it's just an expression of a joy in spirit. This is a person who is just so comfortable in his place. He just sits there and laughs the whole time, as does the Buddha. So it's interesting that you talk about this 92-year-old man. I had some people talking about age just recently, and the important, and you know who you are, and to imagine someone of that age seeming ageless and just expressing such joy, when a lot of people not that age are expressing pain and distress and loneliness and isolation. So that's my 2 cents worth on the laughter side of things with this gentleman. So bless him.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to introduce you to a beautiful piece of work here, the Laughing Buddha pointing up at this. That was given to me by my friend. She's a calligrapher, and she did that for my birthday.
Beautiful.
Really lovely. So I think you're right, you know, like having an open mind that allows other people to share experience with you rather than telling them what to do is very, very an important part of being an elder.
Yes, definitely. Just supporting people to be who they truly are, without changing anything.
Yeah, and being able to help them on their journey, whatever that may be.
Yes, yes. And what I found, like, because I'm listening to wellness all the time, like trying to get people to what keeps them well. And what I found is that the more authentic they are to who they are, and the more at peace they are from within, the cleaner the energy field is, the healthier and the well they are. The better. Yeah. So for me, like, we call symptoms when things happen in the body, but if you visualize like you're under a beam of light, like when you're connected to source, you're connected to the earth, you're connected to your heart, to your core being, and you move within that light of column of light, then that keeps you well. The minute you move away from your core, the light still wants to shine on you, but now it's at an angle, so now you have a shadow, and that's the symptom, reminding you to go back into the light, right, into your core. So that's, for me, what the symptom is. And just my job is to help people go back into under that light.
I just love what you just said. It feels
to me, I was trying to explain something when I was talking in the conference, and then this metaphor came to me, and it's exactly the way I understand wellness and symptoms. So
I think there's something about that, isn't it? That as we become older and move into our eldership, then we are able to distill all that we've learned into beautiful statements like that just send such a strong image. So people know when they're feeling that focus and that movement of inspiration down to action through their bodies, and they know when they're not. And it's so true, the casting of shadow in the darkness.
Yeah, and people feel, that's why I work a lot with the body when I work with people, because the minute you tune in, you are not aligned, because you don't feel right. Right? And when you finish the process and everything and you go back, now it feels right, it feels aligned, and they do know that from within. You don't need to say anything. Yeah.
Yes, I love what you do also, Martine, because you're working on the fundamental of wellness, the energy system of wellness. And yes, there's 1,000 things that we can tweak. We can start having spirulina for breakfast, or walking barefoot on the beach, or standing on our head for 10 minutes a day, Pauline. And so we can do all those things, but it comes down to the fundamental of where you're working, and helping people to understand that sense of deep connected purpose.
Yeah, and also, like, people do everything on the outside. We so focus on the outside and after treatment and things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you forget to do the inner work, it doesn't last. That's my experience. Because I seem to attract a lot of people who have done a lot of treatment, but still not well, right? Because they forgot to go in and clean up whatever is interfering, right? Because we are healing, regenerative, biodevice. We heal naturally. So if the healing doesn't occur, what is interfering with that? And that's my focus. What is interfering with them healing, right?
So I love that you're so kind to say they forgot. I think that we talk about the work that we do on ourselves is the hardest work of all. It's very easy to write a petition and tell people out there how to change, or it's not quite so easy to be a therapist or a practitioner and take some deep involvement with another person's change process. It's harder still when they're in our family. And by the time it gets to us changing ourselves, it's difficult, because it does involve shining light on things that we might not want to know or do. So what do you say to that statement that the work we do is the hardest work of all? Is there a bypass? Can we make it easier?
But that's when you work energetically with someone who can hold the space and support that process. That makes it much easier. But there might be still a little short time of discomfort or short time of processing. but that is like priceless, because once you move through that, then you're back into connection. So it's just not being afraid of feeling and experiencing what the body wants you to process. So it takes a little courage and a little, effort, but the reward is priceless.
Right. So that courage and that effort, as an elder, I guess perhaps we become more and more aware of being here in order to facilitate others' journey, and in order to keep our culture strong and keep our people strong, and to participate, I guess, as you get older, in that the whole concept of circular wellness, which is a life cycle wellness. So, holding a culture really strongly and well means that people die appropriately, that we nourish our community with that death process, and then we move on to be able to hold babies as they come in. I'm just looking at this little cute thing, which is what they used to put babies in.
Oh, wow.
Back in the day, probably still do in some traditional cultures in this country. But we're able to hold them appropriately and guide them through the life cycle, and that's real wellness. So I guess as an elder, we have more chance of being able to do that. Yeah.
Definitely. It's the art of eldership.
The art of eldership. Yeah. And I love what Stephen Jenkinson says about eldership, and he's really clear that age doesn't mean that you're an elder. It's not an equivalency. It's not as you get older you become an elder. It's really stepping up and being basically seen as an elder by your community, and that's the only thing that allows you to actually say that you're an elder.
Right.
Yeah. It's true. So, okay, that was a snapshot of your life in France, learning Russian. Have you got Russian background yourself as well, or why?
No, I think I was just inspired to learn Russian to meet my first mentor. That was the only way I could meet him. So it was, just designed for that, probably.
Yeah, great. And then you moved to Australia, and from Australia you went to China. Is that correct?
China, Japan, like we did a lot of work, a lot of exploration. But China I went 3 times over the years, and that's incredible. Yeah.
Did you feel at home there?
Totally. I'm saying it's like I never experienced energy shift as I was in China. It's like I was home. Like, so I don't know, past life or whatever it is, but I learned some Chinese. I even picked up the accent. Like, people thought I was Chinese, but I talk on the phone. It's like really weird.
That's no mean feat.
But it was like, it's the first country that I felt that so strong.
Okay. So your sense of purpose to bring traditional Chinese medicine and all that it's given you out into your way of healing, do you think that was predestined? Because it sounds how you're explaining it, it feels very much like that was a purpose that came with you into this incarnation, or do you feel something else brought that about?
No, because as I said, from very young, I was totally thinking that way already. And then when I got into my first class of Oriental medicine, I thought, this is it. Like, and I never come back. It's just like, no matter what else I've studied or, engaged in, still Oriental thinking is my base way of thinking. And because it's pure energetic, and the philosophy makes sense to me. So,
and so the philosophy is I also work in that philosophical system as a Japanese yoga teacher, and I know you've done a little Japanese yoga along the way. Was that with, who did you do that with? Do you remember?
Yoga, Oki sensei.
Did you do it with Oki sensei himself in Japan?
Yeah, in Japan, and also one of his teachers came to Australia, and it was amazing. So I did it for about 15 years, like really systematically, and it was incredible. Like, kept the energy so high all the time. It was amazing.
Did you work with Masako or Takao?
Masako, and Takao, of course.
Fantastic. Well, I think that it's such a lineage-based system, isn't it? The Japanese system. I always think it's incredible that in Japan, if you want to become anything, any particular type of profession, you have to learn a whole other language on top of the language that you've already learned. So it's a lineage that gets passed down and embodied in the language and embodied in all actions and embodied in the lifestyle. And it's deeply lineage based. And I'd love to hear from you what your understanding was of the lineage of Oki-san, or how you related to that, because as a Westerner, well, maybe in soul you weren't a Westerner, but in body you'd grown up as a Westerner. So how did it, when you started to learn under a Japanese and a Chinese system, and they're both heavily lineage eldership based, how was that for you?
It's okay. I mean, I was quite at ease with that. There's never been a problem with me. And I said, I am naturally more oriental in my thinking. So it was just more in flow with who I was. So yeah, but it was like when I went to Japan, we did the whole month conference on yoga and oriental medicine. And we had a week in Tokyo, a week in Kyoto, a week in Mishima, and one more place. And it was incredible. It was incredible. We met the monks in the temple in Kyoto, and massive bodies that were all vegetarian, and like it was incredible experience. So yeah, all the top yoga teachers of the world came to that conference. It was just incredible.
How amazing. I suspect that was the conference that Iyengar was at as well. Yeah, and Patabi Joyce, did he go as well, I think? Yeah,
and there was this, what's his name, this Korean 80 plus kind of teacher, and he did a stand on his thumbs.
Oh.
Smile on his face, and it's just like, yeah, big deal.
Oh, that's amazing.
Body, but very beautifully at ease in the mind and emotion. So at peace with that. It was beautiful to watch.
But what a great lesson to see somebody in his 80s stand on his thumbs. I'm just looking at Merv's thumbs in your picture, Merv. It's really to stand on your thumbs in your 80s is an incredible thing that will never leave your memory bank, and anybody else that's ever seen that, and gives people huge hope, doesn't it, as they move on through their ages, that if they apply themselves, they'll be able to achieve eldership as well, and skill base that can be shared on. I always thought, when I was asked to do a PhD maybe 10 years ago now, about corporate health and yoga, and I thought about it. It was very nice to be asked, but then I thought, do I want to sit there for 5 years writing a treatise that sits on a shelf, or do I want to know by my 80s how to do a back bend from standing and do that down the street, and which one's going to have more influence? So for me, that was the whole thing of telling people how it is, or embodying what it is.
Definitely.
As a principle of eldership.
Yeah.
So now I just want to move us back to Naturecare. Naturecare has been around since the 1970s or 60s, I think, they claim. I used to go there back in Chatswood in New South Wales, at the back of the Adyar bookshop.
That's what I started.
Amazing.
I'm part of the walls.
Incredible. And that place smelled like heaven, didn't it? You'd come through the cafe and smell the bookshop and smell the incense, and it was quite novel in those days. It was like a little bastion of peace and well-being in the middle of everything else that was going on. So how have you evolved with Naturecare? Tell us your Naturecare story. How did you get there in the first place?
Well, I was teaching at the East-West Center, the Oki Yoga and the Oriental Medicine base. And then something happened with the director of that company and folded down. And so Naturecare took all the students for the shiatsu training. So then we started training shiatsu at the Naturecare College. And so for many years, and then we realized there was a component missing at Naturecare, which was the energetic understanding. So we created the energetic course, and that was in 1998, and it has been moving very powerfully since then. So
1998, that's a lot of power. That's 24 years or so.
And the first graduates came through in 2000, right? the turn of the century, and then we encouraged them to form an association, which was the Energetic Healing Association, which is now international. So yeah, so the first graduate actually created the association.
And who was that?
Well, what was the first president? Remember. Anyway, there was the first key people who came out of the first training started to set that organization, and then Irina also was involved quite early as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that bit of history, actually, that connection point.
So it all started from the first graduate at Naturecare, because there was no energetic association then.
And what's the name of the course now? Was it all in 1998? Was it named the same thing as it is now?
Now it's called Energetic Health Certificate, because it's a little bit more condensed, but very powerful, because then they can expand after that, but they will have a very solid base of 1 year full-on training. It's most like, what to say, it's they are learning, but they are healing right through the year. So it's a transformational healing course. It's not the normal course. So yeah, so they are very, very well equipped when they complete that, and then they can explore anything else they want. But they will have
do they come up with a certificate or a diploma? What's the qualification?
I think they had to shift for different other reasons. Yeah, there was a diploma before, now it's a certificate.
It's a very political landscape, the wellness wellness landscape. Things change from month to month, year to year.
Yeah.
So I feel like part of what we're doing here in the Eldership Series is to help people understand what goes into coming to this point and how much has gone into the studies. Like you've reeled off probably reeled off a dozen different courses that you've become qualified in over the way. And so, it takes a lot to do the kind of thing that we all do, and it never stops, because once you've committed yourself to being a healer or a therapist, well, it's for life. So are you still learning stuff yourself?
Of course, every day. I do conferences online, I do, and you meet amazing people and different ideas or different things, and I never thought about this. And so it's online the curve of learning is continuous, like. And then the very interesting thing with the energetic healing is that learning and healing is the two sides of the same coin, because when they're learning the course, of course they're applying what they're learning, so they're healing and transform. And then if they come for a session and do healing first, but they'll get to learn about who they are, they'll learn about the energy, and then they want to learn more. So it's like you can't really separate learning and healing, in my experience.
I think we talk about that in yoga too, that Svadhisthaya, which is the self-study. And so, it's in so many different levels that you're constantly integrating knowledge and able to then give back and share. And it personally speaking, as somebody approaching 60, yeah, I think that it just becomes richer and richer in terms of a conversation in your own head and your learning, and with others, doesn't it? The path of healing, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, healing and learning, one thing is the same thing. Yeah, you can use either way to move through whatever. Yeah. Beautiful.
And I think my feeling is in eldership, we're obviously helping eldering others in the act of eldering. I think one aspect of good eldership is perhaps that two-way discussion, or the learning that comes on both sides, and the understanding, as you're expressing, that there's stuff to be learned in everything you do.
And everyone you meet, you learn something, right? You learn what to do or what not to do, but you learn something, right?
Yeah. Widening the path. Now, I've been talking a lot. Does anybody else wish to ask a question or two from our esteemed guest and elder, Martine? Hi, Amanda. And hello, Geraldine. I didn't say hello to both of you.
Okay, I'll ask. Martine, when you have say a client, what type of work do you actually do? Are you led by what you see, so that's what you work with, or do you have a more kind of structured methodology that you use in your healing work?
Good question. The key is to have some kind of structure in your background. So you have the structure about different things that you know, and you know, maps of energetics and connection and this kind of thing. But at the same time, you need to be totally creative and flowing with what is in front of you right now at the moment, because so it actually blends together. So because the patient might come in with an idea of what's going on, which may be completely off. I have no idea. I'm just meeting them, right? But I know the body knows. And so that's why I trust totally what comes up when I have them to tune in. The body will tell me exactly where the problem is. And so that's how I engage them fully into discovering, you know, like, okay, you have an issue here. Okay, breathe into it, feel your body. What sensation, what image, what feeling? And that opens the whole door of the energy to move and guide me where, you know, they need to go. And so I am guided by the body mind system the whole time, because that's where the wisdom is. So my work has evolved to really now work with the innate wisdom of each person that knows exactly what's going on and how to heal. And so, and then I just hold the space and, you know, ask questions that might facilitate them. But basically I'm following where's the energy guiding me, and, you know, what's really going on, and how do I support them to process that. So every case is unique. And that's what I love this work. It's just, there's never a dull moment. It's like, you never know what's going to come out. So,
oh, that's beautiful. That's fantastic. Yeah. And do you use Chinese herbs and medicines as well, or is it more on that more pure level of energy?
I did for many years. I did acupuncture and Chinese herbs and things, but now I am more on that level, because I found that once you clear that, they don't need as much herbs or anything else. So, and most of the time they come in, they already have herbal prescription, or they have drug, or they're taking something already. So I'm not giving them anything. I'm just assessing what's going on, that's stopping the healing.
So you're working with the real person.
Yeah, yeah, and have them reconnect with their real true self.
Yeah. The work sounds amazing. Well done.
Yeah, it's a wonderful job. I mean, it's incredible. I couldn't do anything else. It's so exciting and so fulfilling when you watch the shift happen and they really connect. The energy is completely different, and then you set the energy in a completely different path.
Magnificent. Well done.
And what I've liked is that it's very empowering for the client, because they know they do it all themselves, right? Through their body and through the wisdom that they have within.
And oftentimes what the person concerned puts in, they're going to benefit from it in preference of being handed something, and then they go, oh, that didn't work. If you've got to do the work, it's much more meaningful. Yeah. Totally.
And they can't deny when the truth comes from themselves. It's not what I say, it's what came out, right? And so they can't deny it. And then, you know, then they work through it.
Fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. Great question. Yeah.
It takes deep listening, doesn't it? You know,
you have to be 100%, you know, fully there. No other thought. You just need to be fully there.
Do you do any particular form of practice to encourage yourself to fall into that space more easily, or do you feel like that now is just a part of who you are?
Still prepare myself as well. Yeah, just to be, you know, really connected, really present, through dowsing, through breathing, through whatever energy. Yeah, that makes a big difference. The space, the energy space makes a big difference.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Please.
Can you do any distance healing using your practice?
Healing now. Yeah, I do everything online.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, energy has no time or space. The person does the whole work. I don't need to be with them.
No, that's great.
So
Glad
that's
I asked. Yeah.
I
I
think
missed the
that's,
early bit.
it's been a big discovery for a lot of energy healers, hasn't it, this time when we've had to go online and suddenly people are walking their talk. Like we're, as energy healers, I guess we've always known that energy is intangible and universal, but to actually have to work with people through the screen, you really, really get that. And another person who will be with us during this series is Jane Hall, and she's working for Therapeutic Touch.
Yeah,
it has the word touch in it. Oh, are you a therapeutic?
That's me
touch?
too. Yes, Jane and I know each other really well. Yeah, she told me about you. I've had a knee replacement 2 weeks ago, so I haven't got on. I've been hobbling around. So I just wanted to check in today, just to to touch base with you. And I know Jane's going to be coming on, I think, in a few days. Is it a few weeks?
A few days, I think.
Days.
I'm not sure exactly which day, but it's definitely within the. Let me just see. I probably do have it here. I think that she's going to join us on the 16th, Friday the 16th at 12:30.
Right.
Yeah. The coming, that whole thing of, again, that was always about touch, but being able to deliver the trainings for therapeutic touch through online is also incredible. Anyway, it's a brave new world. brave new world. And Martine, you sorry, Melanie, did you want to ask anything before I butted in? No, all good. Okay. Martine, you've also have a bird's eye view of what's going on in traditional and complementary therapies out there in the big wide world, because you've done so many modalities and you're speaking internationally about what you do. I'd love to know two things about that. Like the way that you're speaking, do you talk about your the way that you've developed the modality at those conferences, or when you go to a conference, is it more silo kind of discussion about acupuncture or traditional medicine, Chinese, or etc.?
I am more moving away from the actual technical tools and more going into how do you engage the person to heal from within, no matter what you do with them. So my focus is to help practitioners have more ways to engage the person in their own healing process, because that's what's missing. When I see a lot of practitioners, they do things to the person, but they don't use their capacity to heal from inside. And that's missing. That's missing 80% of the healing process. So my focus when I speak at conferences is to wake the practitioner up to really engage the client who's in the table with them, and to work from within their energy system, not just doing things to their body, but just allowing them to tune in, to feel, to really work with the practitioner, not just lying down and just having done to you. This is the old way. It doesn't work anymore. The patient has to work from within at the same time. Then you have amazing results.
It's like giving people back the handlebars for their own wellness management, isn't it? Saying you're the expert in you, obviously.
Follow your body. Your body knows how to heal, and we need to follow that. It's not what we want. It's like, how does the body want to heal right now?
And also, what you're teaching is of relevance to all the other modalities that are out there.
Yeah, we had people in the first training. We had people from all backgrounds, like nurses, psychologists, nutritionists. We had a neuroscientist from Russia. We had a monk from Taiwan. We had an accountant. We had anyone. It's like, it was incredible. And so very rich experience from all this amazing background. But they all didn't understand energetics. So they all were passionate about understanding that level. And over the years, we had extraordinary people in the class. So
it feels like such an important part to me of where we're going with wellness across the world now. You know, like the whole thing is to try and give people back the understanding that wellness is a birthright, and that any deviation from feeling fine is a deviation. It's not a normal thing, or it's not from an external influence. It's got to start here, and you need to understand it and digest that, and then to work towards feeling better. So I'm pretty excited about getting you over to Cambodia, because I think we can bring all the therapists that we know.
Amazing.
Across, it would be amazing. And you know, for us all to be there and understanding as a fundamental kind of approach, that deep listening, which by the way is what First Nations all talk about in terms of healing too. And I think in Australia in particular, we're in a really interesting time, because just in the last few weeks there's been a mandate put forward by APRA, and APRA guides all the registered health professions. For those of you that don't know, a lot of us are in non-registered health professions. I've got in my gamut of what I do, I'm a yoga teacher, which is non-registered, but I'm also an occupational therapist, which is registered. But you know, they kind of they've put forward this mandate, which is about cultural safety. So it means that they must provide, that every registered health professional must provide health services that are culturally safe, meaning that they're not going to threaten or damage or confuse or whatever else people of culture, particularly Aboriginal culture, of course, in this country, but also other cultures. And for me, one of the really basic tenets is are you listening to me? Like, as a minority group, we often feel, you know, you didn't hear me, or what are you talking about, or whatever else. So what you're teaching there would seem a really good way to approach cultural safety.
Yeah, it's just you have to be careful with this mandates and things, but
you have to be careful with a lot of things that are done to be registered, and you know, we all have question marks around that, and one day I hope that we have the chance to have a robust discussion within our community about what it is to be registered or non-registered, pros and cons, and how that might be in some ways limiting the development of wellness in this country. But anyway, that's another summit. Let's do that next year. So tell me, is there anything before I let's ask one more time. Has anybody got a question burning bright there at the moment?
Yeah, as I said, 2 weeks ago, I had a knee replacement, so I'm doing really well. I missed the early part, so I'm just wondering, because it's all online, or you're tuning in by distance. I'm just curious to know how you would do that, because I missed the early part, you know. So do you have to do you have them that you can see them? You know, are they on a Zoom?
Yeah, I do Skype call or Zoom call. So I am like you are with me right now. And then again, because I go through helping them tune in into their own body.
They guiding them.
As long as I guide them and, you know, see what comes out, and keep guiding them and keep deeper and deeper. So because they do all the work, I'm just witnessing and I'm facilitating. So it works quite well online. So
well, great. I've worked, by the way, with the Aboriginals in the Outback as a nurse for 2 years. Beautiful. And worked with, they had healers there, and I also worked in Africa, and you know, so those different cultures all had their own healers, you know, and so I've been fascinated by that. So
every culture has their own tradition, healing, and I don't understand energy.
It's really good to I'm glad I tuned in just to check it out.
I think what I'm always interested in is in doing a little bit of research around traditional medicines across the world, that at their base comes down to spirit and energy again, doesn't it? So there's very few traditional therapies that don't to some extent understand the wider picture of energetics out there that we're all embedded in. Anyway, I hope that we'll be able to bring you, Martine, but a lot of other elders together too, to keep talking about traditional medicines on a wider sense, and to start to open that discussion so that we really can approach real wellness, which is got to be aspirational. It's got to be more than we currently are allowing ourselves. Yeah. I would love to know, Martine, have you got any other, I guess, attributes of eldership that you think are really important? Like how would you define an elder?
The elder is like I guess like a mentor, but allowing the person to be exactly who they are and just supporting them to discover who they are. So facilitating their own discovery, basically. So it's not about telling them what to do or anything like that, but just like empowering them from within to be their own, facilitator, their own guide, and follow their heart and be authentic. And so that's what I encourage people to do. So as an elder, as you practice that, then now you can help someone else do that. That's most important. The biggest regret people have when they die is that they haven't done what they wanted. They haven't lived the way they wanted. So you don't want that kind of regret. Right? So if your heart has a passion or desire for something, please follow that, because then you will regret, because you haven't lived your life, right? You need to live from your heart, from your authentic self. Then you're well, and also you enjoy life, and you benefit others by doing that, by sharing your gift. So very beautiful.
I think
Be an elder. I'm blessed that I made it that far.
Yeah. There's been in our society anyway, a lot of prescription about who you should be and how you should be. I guess that's true with all societies, but if you really know that you need to be something, then like having the courage to follow that path and the tenacity to stick with it sometimes does require a sense of being in a supportive community, and most likely the need for an elder, I think.
Yeah. Have that support.
Yeah, I can see Amanda's beautiful exclamation mark and smiley face there too. Thanks for joining us again, Amanda. And is there any questions or thoughts that you'd like to add to the discussion while we're here?
Let me have a think about it for a second. I'm just tuning into it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yep. Love your deep thoughts, Amanda. Yeah.
When I was a child, I was with my grandfather, who must have been, I don't know, 50 or something, and I was 10. And I'm looking at him and I said, oh, maybe I don't think I get old. And he looked at me and so smiled. He said, very easy. You just die young. And yeah, I think I get old. It's so funny. So yeah, because people don't want to know, but they don't want to die young either. So it's like, okay, be comfortable with every age, every stage, right? It's hard to be enjoying every stage for what is there.
It's perhaps the theme of this month, which is gratitude for SoulAdvisor. And you do notice that people I revere as elders have an incredible, you were saying that too, Merv, an incredible capacity to enjoy the present moment. It's just being satisfied and thrilled by the smaller things in life and seeing it in a very clear and beautiful way. That's a real quality of eldership that I revere.
Living in the present moment.
Correct.
Yeah, fully.
Yeah. So I do actually have a question.
Oh,
great.
Yeah, so we often hear this quite a lot, where the journey between the head and the heart can often be the longest one for a lot of people, probably more so in the Western world. And with the amount of information overload currently in the present moment, often that journey can even grow further. So I suppose as energy healers and energy practitioners, to be able to best support people around us, and obviously including ourselves, keeping that connectivity. What methods and approaches do you find that's quite beneficial in encouraging the journey between the head and the heart a lot stronger and a lot more authentic for a lot of people? So so it bypasses the information overload. It sort of tunes into the sense of embodiment, where the two become almost best friends to support one another, as opposed to this sort of Western drive for separation and individualism. But anyway, that was my question around methods. And
because we're all in the head too much, right? And we forget to tune in into the heart. So the key is that we are designed to be connected with the heart. So it's very quick. When you have a thought or you have an idea or you make a decision, if you take the time to tune in and ask your heart, what is the feeling about it, then instantly you have an answer. And if it doesn't feel right, then I suggest you don't do it. But that's what we forget to do. We're in the head and, oh, it looks good, let's go. We forget to tune in, like, how do I feel inside? My intuitive sense, how does that go beyond the appearance of the mind? And the heart is always correct. So that's a very, very powerful issue, to have people move from the head to the heart before they do anything, right? Or before they take anything, or before they decide anything, because that will save a lot of trouble. So great question. Yeah. It happens very instantly. Like, even people who haven't done it for years, the minute they do it, the answer is there. That's the beauty of our system. It's just we are designed to operate from the heart space. No, the heart has a very powerful vibrational field, many more times than the brain. So it speaks louder than anything else, and very quickly. So the trick is to take the time, a few minutes, to just tune in.
It doesn't take that long, does it?
No, it's instant. I mean, I work with people, and the minute they tune in, they know exactly what's going on.
There's a beautiful book from a gentleman that's passed that perhaps you know, Paul Pearsall, who wrote The Heart's Code. Did you ever read that book?
Many years ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a heart transplant practitioner, and he wrote an incredible book, which was more questions than answers. But from him, I learned that, that vibrational field that you talk of, that is real. So the electromagnetic field is something like 5,000 times greater than the brain. Yeah. And I also learned just how more advanced Pacific nations are in terms of their capacity to exist in their heart and to avoid the stress and strains that we consider to be normal in more Western societies. The heart, it's a powerful organ.
Yes, well, the Chinese call it the emperor. So if the heart is not happy, nothing else works.
And like I feel also that, given the trauma that we've inflicted on each other, as we've discussed in other eldership groups, that at this point in our human evolution, we're also scared of each other. Like, we've perpetrated such a lot of horror. And there continues to be horror. So it's very hard to go into the world open-hearted and calm and not feeling like you are at risk, I guess. And the heart, as soon as it's at risk, does that whole thing of closing your wings in and not being there.
Yeah, we can't live in fear. We have to be, connected, trusting our body, trusting, universal energy that is with us at all times, and just live in that space, not in fear. You can't live in fear. It shrinks the energy. You can't do it. You can't stay well if you're in fear.
Courageous. It's that courage comes from the heart. So let's hope that we all continue to be courageous.
It's moving the fear forward. It's like going forward instead of backwards.
Yeah. I don't know what I'd answer to this question. So maybe I'm a bit mean to ask it of you, Martine, but can you, when did you have to be the bravest in your life?
when I met my partner and I decided to follow him, leaving everything behind, not knowing where I was going.
Oh,
That was a big move. Yeah.
mm.
And I had to check in my heart, like how it felt, because my head was going like, are you crazy? But my heart said, yep, you go right there.
Mm.
It's been amazing for a few decades. So
Did you move country to be with them?
yeah, so I came to Australia to be
Oh,
with.
wow.
Yeah.
Love brought you here.
Love brought me here. That's right. And love of Chinese medicine. So I have followed right through.
Oh, gosh, amazing. So when you've let go of the reins like that and just gone, okay, I trust you. We call it Ishvara in yoga, which is
Right.
trusting spirit to deliver
Spirit.
what needs.
Yeah. And it talks through your heart. So that's what you
Yeah.
need to check. You need to check.
Okay. Oh, Merv, what would you like to say?
I'd like to chime in with something that I heard yesterday morning on the radio, and they talked about broken heart syndrome, and it was if it was a revelation to them. Oh my goodness, it could be a thing that somebody's heart could be broken. And I thought this was a fascinating revelation. And they said how the whatever ventricle actually enlarges, and in the past they'd operate and I'm going, wow, they seem to have come across this idea that it could be a thing that someone's heart could be broken. And I just jumped onto Google because that's what we do. And it's actually called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. Now, Takotsubo sounds very, very Japanese to me, Martine.
It
Do you
does.
know of that, Takotsubo?
I don't know, but it sounds very Japanese. Yeah.
It does, which was interesting because I didn't catch the name of it yesterday. And this is where Google for information, not wisdom, is a wonderful thing, because you just type it in, you go, there's the answer there. But the wisdom is getting people to understand that it's not just a physical thing; it can be something else, that energy or spiritual, whatever, that actually impacts the heart. So it was just interesting that all of a sudden we went from Chinese medicine to the heart, to the heart, to the heart, to the heart, and it just reminded me of that yesterday. So it was. I don't know, I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and the heart energy is joy and laughter. Right? That's why it's so powerful to stay in joy and laughter, because the heart is open and happy, right? Very powerful. That's the core of Chinese medicine. The heart is the emperor, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And I had a client once. She came in, and the way she expressed what happened to the heart was like, her heart was like a crystal vase broken in 1,000 pieces. And that was when she was rejected from her biological father, which she spent years finding. And then when she found him, he said, I don't want anything to do with her. So that was just like the vase broke on the floor. That was her image of the heart. And so it took the whole session to rebuild the heart into, one piece. It was incredible. But heartbroken does exist. It's real.
I love that the Japanese have brought that to our attention, and there's a lot of research, Merv, out there on broken heart syndrome. A lot of stuff I don't understand. Looking at medical journals, it's really interesting. Yeah. Dr. Paul Purcell talked from the Hawaiian perspective, because that's where he was based, and he talked about the Hawaiian word for heart, which is pua'ua, which means water, turning and twisting and pumping within water.
Oh, wow.
Which is, when you start to understand, again, Japanese, Matsumoto-san, and other people's concept of water holding the entire memory of humanity and all things that have ever happened in this planet, and that we come and we hold a vessel around this beating heart, which connects us to all other beating hearts and all other water flow. You start to really build out that beautiful picture of the heart being at the center of all of us.
Yeah.
Can I just add something there, Kate?
Please.
The syndrome that they speak of is actually the joint name of a Japanese researcher that found that hearts can be broken. And the other thing I'd like to say is I've had the great privilege of working with a girl that had a lung heart transplant. Now, she never, ever sworn. She was very religious. She had never, ever tasted alcohol. And they did the heart-lung transplant, and they called the parents in and everything, the husband, and one would think she would say, you know, mum, husband, da, 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 da. So please excuse my language. But she said, I just want a bloody beer. And when they did the research on whose heart and lung it was actually from an alcoholic, but his liver was ruined, but his heart was fine. So the surgeon then that did that went on to do quite a bit of research on the talking brain. And that's been fascinating.
You know,
Yeah.
yes.
That was the whole premise of Paul Pearsall's book, because he couldn't deny it after a while that all these people were coming with incredible changes, you know, like calling out the ex-person's loved one in lovemaking, for example, to their their current partner, or changing their desire for certain colors, or just completely changing their lives, and it couldn't be denied anymore. So that's why he wrote that book, questioning.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, Martine, we're going to call it quits there, because unbelievably enough, we've got to an hour. And it's been a beautiful conversation, and I think I don't know, I myself am feeling a lot heartier at the end of this conversation than I was at the beginning, which is a true mark of a good elder, to bring you into a framework that sustains you and strengthens you. So thank you so much. And thank you everybody else who's been coming along here. And to those of you that might hear it, we'll have this up on YouTube within a day or two. We've got the other two ready to go. So we'll start to link this on our social media so that you can have a look and revisit words that have been spoken. But thanks for your wisdom, and
thank you for inviting me.
And I know that Deb would love me to thank you for all that you've done, bringing her into the field of energy healing, and now as our CEO, as the
amazing
amazing interlocked journey. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.